When the deep sea goes quiet, that is when the monsters rise. From calm night swims to wild kiteboarding runs, these stories show how fast peaceful water can turn into a fight for life. Divers, swimmers, and sailors all faced predators that appeared in a blink, striking with speed no human can outrun. Cages bent, boards snapped, and cameras shook as massive sharks pushed every limit of fear and survival. One wrong wave or one small splash was all it took to spark disaster. Watch till the end. On March 11, 2025, Liam Carter prepared for one of the most ambitious dives of his career. At 32, he had spent years traveling the world as an underwater filmmaker, building a reputation for capturing rare moments in deep ocean environments. Since childhood, he had been drawn to the sea, spending long hours studying marine life and dreaming of filming creatures few people ever saw. His calm nature and careful planning made him trusted by many research teams, and he often joined expeditions that pushed into remote and challenging waters. This new dive took him to a deep submarine canyon off the South African coast, far from crowded beaches and tourist boats. The area was known for cold, clear water and for sudden drops where sunlight faded into darkness within a few meters. Scientists believed that large schools of deepwater fish passed through the canyon each year, and Liam wanted to document the movement for an upcoming documentary. He trained for weeks, reviewing canyon maps, adjusting camera systems, and practicing steady descent patterns to handle strong currents. The morning of the dive felt peaceful. The sea was flat and bright, and the air held only a slight breeze. Liam checked every buckle of his gear, lifted the heavy camera rig, and eased into the cold water. As he descended, the bright surface narrowed above him, fading to a pale glow. The deeper he went, the quieter the world became. Only small clicks and distant hums echoed through the canyon, where rock walls stretched like giant pillars into the deep. Near a shelf of dark stone, Liam spotted the shimmering motion he had been searching for. A school of slender fish glided past in a smooth wave, their silver bodies catching the faint beams of sun that reached down through the greenish-blue water. He held still, recording their movement, lost in concentration as he drifted gently with the current. Nothing seemed out of place, and the water carried a strange calm, almost too still for such a remote place. Then a faint shift of light passed over him. A slow, growing shadow spread across the canyon floor. Liam looked up, expecting a stray cloud or rock formation. Instead, something immense moved with steady force, its shape larger than anything he had ever seen up close. A great white shark, stretching nearly 20 feet, glided into view from the darkness below. Its wide body and slow, controlled movement sent a wave of cold tension through him. He froze, heart pounding, unsure if the predator had noticed him. The shark turned slightly, revealing its massive head and pale underside. Liam felt the current change as the creature drifted closer. Before he could react, it surged forward with sudden strength. Its snout struck the camera rig, jolting it out of position, and its rough skin scraped along his arm with crushing force. Pain shot through him as he spun in the swirling water, the impact sending clouds of his own blood rising around him. He struggled to regain control, kicking hard as the shadow circled once more. The moment the giant shape drifted away, Liam pushed upward, knowing the danger was far from over. Liam kicked upward with steady, controlled motions, trying not to create sudden bursts that might draw the giant predator back toward him. His arm throbbed from the harsh scrape, and a trail of faint red drifted behind him, spreading through the cold water. Each slow rise toward the surface felt longer than the last. Below him, the canyon floor stayed dark and still, yet he feared the huge shadow might surge upward again at any moment. The current brushed past him, pushing him slightly off his path, but he forced his legs to keep a calm rhythm. Halfway to the surface, he risked a glance downward. The massive shape reappeared near the canyon edge, moving with quiet, deliberate control. It circled the area where the camera rig had fallen, nudging the metal frame with slow passes. Liam felt another wave of fear climb through his chest, but he did not pause. He understood that any delay could trap him in the deeper shadows, where the predator held every advantage. As he neared the lighter band of water, his breath quickened. His body felt heavier from the cold, and the pain in his wounded arm grew sharper. He kept lifting himself with long, steady kicks until the blue above brightened. When he finally broke the surface, he inhaled deeply, pulling in air with a shaking chest. Sunlight flashed across the waves, and the distant support vessel floated only a short distance away. Using his remaining strength, He swam toward it, each stroke sending another ache through his shoulder. Hands reached down and pulled him out of the water. Once aboard, he lay still while the team wrapped his arm and helped him sit upright. His wetsuit carried long scratches and his skin burned where the rough texture had grazed him. Though the injury was painful, it was far less severe than what could have happened if the shark had struck again. The crew watched the sea in silence, the calm surface giving no sign of the massive creature moving below. Back on land hours later, Liam reviewed the footage. The size of the predator, the sudden burst of strength, and the silent approach left him stunned. The experience changed his understanding of deep water environments. He realized that even the calmest moments could hide powerful threats, especially in remote regions where predators moved freely. The encounter left him shaken but grateful, turning the dive into a lasting reminder of the ocean's vast force and the thin margin separating danger from survival. On December 3, 2021, Evan Harper, a 31-year-old fitness coach from Melbourne, boarded a luxury yacht with a small group of friends for a short holiday along the southern coast of Australia. Evan had always loved the ocean. Growing up near wide, open beaches, he learned to swim before he could write his name. As an adult, he kept that habit alive by exploring new coves, reefs, and coastal spots whenever he had time. His friends admired the calm and steady way he moved through water, as if the sea felt like a second home to him. The group planned this trip as a break from long work weeks. The yacht was comfortable, stocked with food, soft lights, and warm cabins. Evan had come along to relax and clear his mind after busy months of training clients. The cove they anchored in that evening looked quiet and safe, with high cliffs blocking strong winds and only gentle swells moving across the surface. The sky carried soft orange shades as the sun began to set, and the friends settled on the deck for dinner, sharing stories while waves tapped lightly against the hull. As night grew darker, soft moonlight spread across the cove, turning the water into a smooth silver sheet. Evan watched the glow with calm interest. He had always found night swims peaceful. The water at this hour felt different to him, as if the world slowed down and the ocean became a private place. The yacht rocked gently while the group talked and listened to the sounds of crickets drifting from the cliffs. After a while, Evan stood near the ladder at the back of the yacht. The cove seemed still and warm, and he felt drawn to the water. Used to swimming in many different conditions, he felt no fear, only a comfortable excitement. Without calling attention to himself, he stepped down the ladder and slipped into the dark sea. The water wrapped around him with soft warmth, and he floated on his back, looking up at the stars. His movements created small ripples that spread outward in calm, smooth circles. From the deck, his friends continued to talk, unaware of the danger beneath the surface. The cove hid deep, shadowy water below the bright moonlight, and in those depths, a large, great white shark patrolled the area, moving slowly with quiet purpose. It had been drawn close by shifting SEAL groups earlier in the week, though no one on the yacht knew this. The soft splashing of Evan's arms and legs drifted downward through the water, catching the shark's attention. Evan turned and swam a few gentle strokes toward the stern, enjoying the stillness around him. At that moment, the great white approached from below, its large shape blending with the dark sea. Silent and unseen, it moved upward with growing speed, its interest rising with each vibration from the surface. In the next instant, the peaceful night became something entirely different, as the predator rose toward him with sudden force. The quiet sea shattered in a single violent moment as the great white burst upward, striking Evan with crushing power. The force drove him downward, the water folding around him in a whirl of bubbles and dark shapes. The predator clamped onto his upper body, thrashing with sharp, twisting motions that shook the surface far above him. On the yacht, waves slammed against the hull as his friends stumbled to the rail, trying to understand the sudden chaos below. Foam and shadows mixed as the shark dragged him through the water. Powerful jerks bent his body back and forth while the sea filled with clouds of red that spread quickly under the moonlight. The yacht lights flickered across the swirling water, but no one could see clearly where the predator had gone or how deep it had pulled him. His friends threw anything they could reach into the sea, hoping to distract the animal, but the cove was deep, and the predator moved with fast, silent control. Far beneath the surface, the shark continued its violent motion before releasing him for a brief second, only to surge again with renewed force. The dark water felt endless, swallowing every sign of the struggle. On deck, his friends cried out for help, hitting alarms and grabbing flotation devices, but the cove offered no answer. The water calmed only after long moments of devastating stillness, leaving ripples that spread outward in slow, heavy circles. Rescuers arrived soon after, moving quickly with searchlights that swept across the cove. Divers entered the water, searching the deep pockets beneath the yacht, guided by soft beams that cut through the darkness. When they recovered Evan, the damage he suffered left nothing uncertain. The strength of the predator had been overwhelming, and the outcome clear. The group returned to shore in silence, shaken by how fast the night had changed. News of the event spread across the region, and experts studied the conditions that had brought a large predator so close to a small cove. They noted shifting seal movements, warm currents, and growing food activity in the area, all factors that drew powerful hunters along new paths. The loss left a deep impact on everyone who knew him. Friends and family gathered along the coast in the following days, placing flowers and candles near the shoreline. The peaceful cove that Evan had admired became a reminder of the hidden strength and unpredictability of the open sea, showing how even calm moments can turn into sudden danger when an apex predator rises from the depths. On June 3, 2018, Marina Evans walked along a quiet Caribbean shoreline, enjoying a warm morning that felt peaceful and slow. At 28 years old, she loved visiting calm beaches far from crowds, collecting photos for her small travel blog. She worked as a part-time teacher at home and spent most of her free time outdoors, learning about small sea animals and coral habits. Her trips were usually simple and safe, guided by her careful nature and light curiosity. She often preferred knee-deep water, believing it was harmless due to its shallow depth and gentle waves. Marina had arrived on the island only 2 days earlier, hoping to gather new pictures for her next project. She planned to focus on tide pools, shells, and tiny fish that hid among rocks close to shore. With her camera hanging from a strap around her neck and a small bag of supplies at her side, she moved slowly through the shallow water, watching the ripples shine under the bright sun. The beach she chose that morning was quiet, with only a few visitors resting under palm trees. The water looked almost clear, though sunlight flashing across the surface made shadows harder to see. Schools of tiny fish drifted in and out of patches of seagrass, flickering in soft colors. Marina crouched near a smooth patch of sand, noticing a bright orange fish swimming just ahead of her. She stepped forward carefully, hoping to get a closer photo before it darted away. As she reached out with her hand, she focused on the fish and not the faint shape gliding in from the side. A 5-foot black-tip shark moving through the warm shallows in search of small prey slipped into the area without creating much disturbance. The splashes of tiny fish and Marina's hand brushing the water drew its attention. In the soft glare of the sun, Marina could not see its outline clearly. When she stretched her fingers toward the fish, the shark mistook the movement for a feeding chance. In a sudden burst, it shot forward, its speed surprising for such shallow water. Before Marina could react, a sharp, tearing pain ripped through her hand. The shark's jaws closed around her fingers, cutting deep before releasing instantly as it recognized the shape was not its usual prey. The attack lasted only a second, but its force sent Marina stumbling backward into the sand. She fell to her knees, gripping her injured hand as blood swirled through the water around her. The shark circled once, its dark fin slicing through the surface, then turned and vanished into slightly deeper water, leaving behind only fading ripples. Nearby beachgoers saw her fall and rushed toward her from the shore. They pulled her out of the water, guiding her across the sand while she pressed her hand against her chest. Her breath came fast, shaken by the shock that surged through her body. The calm morning had changed in an instant, leaving the beach tense and silent as help arrived. Marina sat on the warm sand while several people knelt beside her, supporting her as she tried to steady her breathing. The blood from her hand flowed steadily, staining her palm and wrist in deep red streaks. She felt lightheaded, partly from the pain and partly from the shock of how fast everything had changed. Only moments earlier, she had been smiling at the tiny fish drifting through the water. Now her hand throbbed in sharp pulses that spread up her arm. More visitors arrived, carrying towels and small bags, offering whatever help they could. Someone wrapped a cloth around her injured fingers, pressing down gently to slow the bleeding. Marina gazed at the ocean, still shimmering under the sun, unable to believe something so sudden had come from such shallow water. The waves moved softly, almost hiding the fact that danger had swept so close to shore. She felt a deep tremble run through her body, the fear rising only after she was safely out of the water. A lifeguard soon reached her, checking her hand and the cuts along each finger. He guided her to a shaded area near the trees so she could rest. Marina leaned against the sand with her eyes closed, her breath slowly settling into a steady pace. The pain remained strong, but she felt grateful for the help surrounding her. Even though the shark had already left, the memory of the bite played again in her mind. The moment when she felt its sharp teeth and the sudden force pulling against her skin. An emergency vehicle arrived, and Marina was lifted into the back with care. As the doors closed, she glanced once more at the shoreline, noticing how calm everything seemed again. The water gently touched the beach as if nothing unusual had happened. The contrast made her chest tighten, reminding her of how easily something small and simple could turn dangerous without warning. At the clinic, doctors cleaned the wounds and stitched the deeper cuts. They explained that the injuries, while painful, would heal well with proper rest. Marina listened quietly, trying to process the entire event. She had always known that the ocean held life both gentle and fierce, but she had never imagined such a sudden and personal encounter. Later that evening, she sat near her hotel window, watching the sky turn soft shades of orange. Her hand was bandaged, resting on a pillow. Fear still lingered, yet she also felt a growing sense of respect for the unpredictability of the sea. What began as a peaceful walk had become a powerful reminder of the ocean's hidden strength. The experience stayed with her, reshaping how she approached even the quietest waters in the days that followed. On March 4, 2024, the northern Australian coast glowed under warm morning light as Derek Lawson prepared for another freediving session. He was 28 years old, strong, calm, and deeply familiar with the shifting moods of shallow estuary waters. Derek had spent years spearfishing along river mouths, learning how tides pulled sand in wide circles and how baitfish gathered near darker patches of water. He understood the routine dangers, yet he loved the quiet moments underwater, where everything moved with slow rhythm and steady purpose. On this day, the river mouth looked peaceful, though the recent rains had stirred heavy sediment. Dark clouds of silt swirled beneath the surface, hiding anything more than a few meters away. Derek knew visibility would be poor, but he planned to stay close to a wide sandbar where fish often gathered. His colleague remained on a small boat nearby, watching for any sudden changes in the current. Derek slipped into the water, feeling the gentle push of the tide pulling outward. Schools of small fish darted around him, flashing silver in the dim light. He floated quietly, scanning the murky shapes that drifted ahead. Holding his spear, he moved with slow kicks to avoid stirring more sand. Each breath at the surface felt cool and steady before he dipped down again, searching for snapper along the river edge. A faint movement in the distance pulled his focus. He thought it might be a larger fish, but the water was too cloudy to see clearly. As he turned slightly, the riverbed shifted beneath him, carrying more silt into the water. The sudden drop in visibility made the space around him feel tighter, as if the river mouth had closed in. Then, without warning, a heavy force rammed into his side. A 10-foot bull shark burst out of the murk, jaws locking around his thigh. The bite was powerful and sudden, sending a sharp shock through his entire body. Derek twisted, kicking hard as the shark shook him with violent strength, pulling him sideways through the thick water. Pain spread quickly through his leg as he struggled to regain control. He gripped his spear tightly and thrust it toward the shark's head, striking again and again until the predator released him. The pressure vanished in an instant, leaving only the burning pain in his leg and the cloud of blood drifting into the murky water. The shark retreated a short distance, disappearing into the swirling silt. Derek knew he had only moments. He kicked toward the sandbar, each movement sharp with fear, the water dragging at his arms and legs. His breath felt tight, pushing against panic as he forced himself to stay focused. He reached for the lighter section of water, hoping to gain enough distance for safety. Just as the bottom brightened beneath him, another heavy surge rippled through the water behind him, shifting the current in a familiar, terrifying way. The sudden rush of water behind Derek confirmed what he feared. The bull shark had returned, drawn by the drifting trail left in the murky river mouth. A heavy shape brushed along his side, pushing him off balance, and a sharp graze tore across his shoulder as the predator passed close enough for its rough skin to scrape through his suit. The force spun him sideways, sending him stumbling through the shifting current. His arms pressed against the water, trying to keep his head above the surface as the tide pulled at him. Derek steadied himself with slow, careful kicks, knowing fast movements might invite another surge from the shark. The shallow sandbar lay only a short distance ahead, but each meter felt longer as the river pushed more silt into his path. His leg throbbed with deep pulses, warm water wrapping around the injury with every movement. The scrape across his shoulder burned sharply, reminding him how narrow the escape had been. The shark circled again, its shape barely visible through the cloudy water. Derek sensed the movement more than he saw it, the water pressure shifting with each slow turn the predator made. He kept his body angled toward the shallows, moving with steady effort, refusing to let panic break his rhythm. His breath shook, but he kept pushing forward, watching for any new disturbance behind him. A sudden splash near the edge of the sandbar caught his attention. His colleague had thrown a floating rope toward the brighter water, letting the current carry it toward him. Derek reached for the line with one arm, stretching until his fingers brushed the rough surface. Another slow turn from the predator pushed a wave over him, soaking his face and making the rope drift just out of reach. He kicked hard once more and caught the line firmly. As soon as he gripped the rope, the shark drifted away, losing interest as the water around Derek became too shallow for easy movement. He let himself sink slightly toward the calmer bottom, allowing his colleague to pull him across the soft sand. Each tug brought him closer to the safety of the shallows, away from the deeper channel where the predator still moved. When Derek reached the edge of the sandbar, he collapsed onto the warm surface, letting the gentle waves wash over his arms and injured leg. Blood continued to trail from the wounds, but the pain settled into a steady ache rather than sharp bursts. His colleague hurried to stabilize his position, helping him lean back while checking for any new cuts along his shoulder and thigh. The boat approached slowly, careful not to stir the water too much as they kept watch for the bull shark's shadow. Once close enough, his colleague guided him into the vessel, supporting his weight and avoiding pressure on the deeper punctures. Derek lay across the deck, breathing hard, his body still tense from the struggle. The ocean air felt sharp and clean as he tried to calm the pounding in his chest. Emergency responders later cleaned the wounds, wrapping his leg and shoulder with firm, steady hands. They noted the deep scratches and punctures, as well as the clear marks of the predator's twists. Though shaken, Derek remained alert, grateful for the timing that kept him alive. The event spread quickly among local spearfishers, reminding them how easily bull sharks could rise from the murky river mouth without warning. For Derek, the memory stayed sharp. The sudden strike, the twisting current, and the long push toward shallow safety. It marked a turning point, shaping his respect for the unpredictable forces hidden beneath quiet estuary waters. On June 3, 2021, the soft morning light spread across a quiet stretch of northern Australia, where Ethan Wells prepared for another early session on the water. At 29 years old, he had built a life around movement and open spaces. He was known for trying new outdoor challenges, always searching for ways to test his balance, strength, and focus. Kiteboarding had become one of his favorite activities, giving him a sense of freedom that mixed excitement with calm. He trained often before sunrise, enjoying the cool air and steady wind. His friends admired his discipline and easygoing nature, and even though he pushed himself hard, he always stayed careful and thoughtful with his equipment. Ethan lived in a small coastal town known for long beaches and clear tide shifts. Local fishers often spoke about sea life near the reefs, warning that large predators moved through the area whenever schools of small fish gathered at the surface. Ethan listened to these stories but trusted his awareness of the water. He checked the wind, prepared his board, and studied the shoreline like he always did. To him, everything felt normal and safe. Not far from where he practiced, another athlete, Sophie Lane, set up her own kiteboard. She enjoyed crossing paths with Ethan during morning sessions since he was steady and calm, someone she felt safe riding near. As they adjusted their lines, the rising sun revealed shimmering patches of baitfish close to the surface. Ripples moved across the water, gentle but quick. These movements were common at first light, and neither rider felt concerned. Below these ripples, however, a huge tiger shark moved silently through the dim water. It glided along the deeper edge of the shallows, following the stirring patterns of fish. The shark's wide head and striped body blended with the shifting light, making it nearly invisible from above. It kept a slow, steady pace as it watched the flashes of baitfish rise closer to the morning surface. When Ethan launched his kite, the wind caught smoothly, lifting him across the water with bright speed. His board skimmed the small waves as he built rhythm, turning and carving with ease. Each movement sent splashes outward, catching the attention of the large predator below. The shark shifted its path and followed the sound and motion, rising toward the surface layer. Ethan, unaware of the shadow beneath him, pushed into another turn as the wind grew stronger. A sudden burst of force erupted from the deep as the massive tiger shark surged upward with shocking speed. It struck the bottom of the board with tremendous power, breaking Ethan's balance instantly. Its teeth raked across his leg as the impact flipped him off the board. He hit the water hard, spinning as the current twisted around him. Before he could regain control, the shark turned sharply and clamped onto his torso, pulling him downward with violent strength. Sophie, riding at a distance, saw the sudden movement and the burst of water. She steered toward him, but the rough water and the predator's force made the scene impossible to reach in time. The attack continued beneath the splashing waves, the shark twisting and pulling as the sea filled with churned foam and motion. Within minutes, a nearby support craft responded to the disturbance and moved toward the drifting equipment. The water stilled quickly, leaving only scattered debris and broken ripples behind. The broken ripples slowly widened across the still morning surface as Sophie reached the area where Ethan had vanished. Churning foam drifted outward, carrying pieces of torn board material and loose gear that bobbed weakly in the rising light. The water carried a faint cloudiness that spread in uneven shapes, pushed by the steady pull of the tide. Sophie steadied her breath as she searched the shifting surface, scanning each patch of disturbed water for any sign of movement. The sea grew quieter with each second, leaving only the sound of wind brushing across her lines. A support craft from the nearby shore station sped toward the scene after spotting the sudden change in motion across the water. The driver slowed as he approached the drifting equipment, recognizing the seriousness of the situation instantly. Sophie pointed toward the largest patch of disturbed water, holding her board steady as the craft closed in. Crew members leaned over the side, sweeping the area with long poles. Within minutes, the tide shifted just enough to lift Ethan's body toward the surface. The crew pulled him aboard with steady, practiced movements. Sophie watched with a heavy stillness settling through her limbs, the finality of the moment sinking into the quiet morning air. Other riders arrived soon after, gathering at a respectful distance. They stood on their boards without speaking, the drifting fragments around them reflecting the soft early light. The calm water, now free of movement below, felt strangely hollow. Even the wind seemed quieter as the support craft began its slow path back toward the shore. On land, emergency teams met the boat and moved with gentle precision as they addressed what little they could do. Sophie stepped onto the sand behind them, still gripping her board with both hands. Her gaze stayed fixed on the steady waves rolling toward the beach, each one rising and falling as if unaware of what had happened moments earlier. The news spread quickly through the small coastal town. Groups gathered near the lookout points, speaking softly about the conditions, the early baitfish activity, and the suddenness of the attack. Ethan had been well known in the community, and his calm confidence on the water had made him a familiar sight at sunrise. A memorial soon formed near the rocks where he liked to launch his kite. People placed shells, smooth stones, and handwritten notes in a small line along the shore. Each new tide touched the edge of the memorial without washing it away, leaving a gentle reminder of the morning that had changed everything. Sophie returned to the beach in the following days, carrying a quiet awareness of the sea's power. She watched the water with new caution, honoring the friend whose final ride had taken place beneath the same rising sun. On March 4, 2024, Clara Reyes and her 14-year-old daughter Sophia traveled to the southern coast of South Africa for a long-planned holiday. Clara worked as a nurse in a busy city clinic and rarely took time off, but she wanted to give Sophia a trip that blended learning and adventure. Sophia loved marine life, collecting books about ocean creatures and dreaming of becoming a scientist one day. The idea of seeing great white sharks from a safe, guided cage seemed exciting and almost unreal to her. Clara hoped the experience would help her daughter grow confident while also sharing something unforgettable together. The morning air carried a cool breeze as they boarded the small diving vessel, joining a group of tourists and trained crew members. The ocean stretched wide and steady under a soft sky, and Clara felt a quiet calm as she held Sophia's hand. The crew explained the process, pointing out the steel cage that rested at the boat's edge. It looked strong and secure, built from thick bars and connected firmly by chains to the deck. Clara trusted the professionalism of the team and felt reassured by their steady behavior. When the boat reached deeper water, the guide dropped chum into the sea to draw sharks from afar. The smell drifted across the surface, and Clara noticed how the baitfish below moved in shimmering clouds. The water was unusually clear, making every shape and shadow stand out sharply. As preparations finished, Clara and Sophia were instructed to step carefully into the cage. Wearing wetsuits and weighted belts, they eased themselves inside, gripping the bars as the cage lowered slightly beneath the surface. Cool water washed around them, and bubbles rose in slow spirals. At first, the scene felt calm and dreamlike. Small fish darted through patches of light, and the deep blue below looked endless. Sophia pressed her gloved fingers gently against a bar, gazing outward with wide eyes. Clara stayed close, reassuring her silently with a steady touch on her shoulder. Then, without warning, a huge dark form appeared far below, rising with smooth power through the water. The shape grew larger and clearer, revealing the wide head and pale underside of a great white shark. Its size was staggering, close to 17 feet long, and its movements held raw force. The shark angled upward, drawn by the scent and the sudden activity near the cage. Clara felt her breath tighten as the predator accelerated with shocking speed. In an instant, the great white struck. It slammed into the steel frame with violent force, sending a heavy jolt through the metal. The cage rattled so hard that Clara lost her grip for a moment, pulling Sophia close again as they swayed. Bubbles exploded around them, and bars creaked as if pushed past their limits. The shark scraped its massive jaws along the steel, revealing lines of sharp teeth just inches away. The moment felt endless as the animal thrashed once more, shaking the entire structure. The strike marked the beginning of a terrifying encounter that neither mother nor daughter could have imagined. The cage shook again as the great white turned sharply, brushing its powerful body against the metal with a rough scrape. Clara held tightly to Sophia, feeling the sudden sweep of water push them sideways. The shark circled with slow, deliberate movements, drifting just outside the bars, its large eyes fixed on the shifting shapes within. Clara sensed the strength behind every motion, the surrounding water trembling each time the animal changed direction. The crew above moved quickly. Heavy steps crossed the deck and shadows shifted on the surface as the guide attempted to redirect the predator. The shark rose once more from below, striking the lower edge of the cage. The collision sent a deep vibration through the structure, and Clara steadied her footing while pulling Sophia close to her chest. The creature scraped its mouth along the bars again, leaving marks across the steel. Each impact sent a burst of bubbles that clouded the view for a moment before drifting upward toward the light. Inside the cage, Clara focused on staying calm. She felt Sophia's small hands gripping her arm with all their strength. The water around them swayed in steady, powerful motions as the shark passed again, testing the cage from another angle. Its tail swept across the water with a force that stirred the sand far below and scattered the baitfish in sudden bursts. Even with the strong bars between them, the sense of danger pressed down like a heavy weight. The guide struck the cage from above, creating noise that finally pulled the shark's focus upward. The animal paused, twisting its massive head toward the sound. For a moment, everything grew strangely still. Then, with a long and smooth turn, the great white drifted away into deeper water, its outline fading gradually into the dim blue below. Clara kept her grip steady until the guide began lifting the cage gently toward the surface. When the cage broke through the waterline, fresh air washed over them. Clara helped Sophia climb onto the deck, both of them shaking from the intensity of what they had just faced. Crew members supported them toward a bench where towels and warm jackets were waiting. Sophia sat close to her mother, leaning into her for reassurance. Clara felt her heart pounding, but she also felt immense relief. They had made it through something powerful and unpredictable. The crew checked them thoroughly, cleaning the marks left on Clara's forearm from scraping against the bars during the impact. The abrasions were deep in some spots, but not dangerous, and they were treated quickly with steady hands. As they warmed in the sunlight, the boat continued to drift slowly across the calm surface, a peaceful contrast to the chaos they had just survived. When they returned to shore, word of the event spread quickly among local divers and guides. Many expressed surprise, noting how rare such direct force could be during controlled dives. Clara listened quietly, holding Sophia's hand the entire time. She felt grateful that the steel cage had protected them and that the shark had eventually turned away. In the days that followed, Clara took time to reflect on the experience. She understood now how easily the ocean could shift from peaceful to dangerous in a single moment. Sophia, though shaken, found strength in knowing she had faced something immense and survived. Their trip became a reminder that nature holds great beauty but also great power, and that respect must always guide those who enter its territory.